Welcome to Project Nalanda Podcast, Episode 2, The Man and the Mountain. 12th November 2023. All the eyes of the media and the governments, both the central and the state, were focused towards one particular location, the Uttarkashi Tunnel. The tunnel had posed an unprecedented, alarming situation where 41 lives were at stake. You heard it right, not one, not two, but 41. The Uttarkashi Silkyara tunnel had collapsed, and the 41 men were on the blessings of the mountain. They were unharmed, yet it was difficult and certainly impossible to bring those men back. Then came a lot of blessings, prayers, and a mighty rescue mission that was nothing less than an epic Bollywood or a Hollywood thriller. Working with the Himalaya, the mighty Himalaya, came a man along with his team that worked not only with the nature but also against the nature. Professor Dr. Arnold Dix, who turned the impossible into I am possible and who ensured that with his team, the 41 men, or as he calls in the podcast, 41 kids, for him comes out unharmed and unscratched. Let's see how did this epic go and what have we learned from this and what do we have in fact to learn from this in terms of working with the nature, especially with the ones like the mighty Himalayas.
Now, Namaste, everyone, and welcome to BCA Foundation India's Project Nalanda podcast, where we celebrate nationalism, heroes, and we celebrate the joy of being the presence of the universe, being a part of the universe. It is an honor for me and for the entire viewership of Project Nalanda and this country. We owe a lot to the person we are going to welcome today, and we are going to talk today with Professor Dr. Arnold Dix from Australia, the man behind the Silkyara Tunnel Rescue Project. You are a professor, a lawyer, more than that, an underground tunneling expert. And above that, you've already called me your brother. So, Professor, welcome to the show. And thank you for accepting.
Namaste.
Namaste. How are you, Professor?
I'm well, and I'm very excited to be on your show, and I'm very happy that you're calling me your brother now. So this makes me very, very happy. And I just right from the beginning, though, I'd just like to say I was part of a wonderful team. I don't, and I never have, and I never will say, look at me, this was my rescue, somehow magically I did this, or this is not me. I was part of something bigger than any one person, something really amazing up there in your fantastic Himalayas. I mean, my goodness. So yeah, so thank you for having me on your show.
Professor, Dr. Dix, I would really like to know about the concept of tunneling and underground mining. How does this all work? Because I've been a part of academics and I have taken care of operations as a subject and have taught operations management, but I'm very unaware of this concept where engineering and management both blends together in the form of underground tunneling and management of uh,
Yeah.
underground facilities. So how does this all
Yeah.
work?
Well, how does it work? Well, fundamentally, we've got a problem, and our problem is that human beings' appetite to do things includes going through mountains, and mountains are technically extremely, extremely complex because they're mountains, and I'm just like I'm just a little person, and we as human beings are just completely dwarfed by mountains, and yet we want to build through them, whether it's mining or a tunnel or something like that. So to actually do this requires to do it well requires a combination of excellence technically, so the technical excellence, and also incredible complexity in management, because the the skills that we need to burrow through a mountain are actually enormous, and technically it's not quite what it seems. So you could imagine that drilling a hole through a mountain, you have to be very strong, and we're going to do this battle with the mountain, and as a human being we're going to beat the mountain. But actually it's not that at all. We have to do a deal. We actually need to find some sort of harmony, because if we take an aggressive and arrogant approach to this engineering act, we lose. We always lose, because there's we need an equilibrium, a balance, we need an understanding. And so every part of a major underground project, from the very beginning, contractually, the procurement, the resource allocation, the selection of the teams, the staging, the coordination, the reassessment, it requires quite a high level of sophistication to do it well. And I'm sure you're going to ask me about Silk Yara, and obviously that's why I'm here. You don't get a collapse in a mountain like Silk Yara unless a lot of things have gone wrong, and they need to have gone wrong for quite a long time as well. And so there are really, really important lessons in how you can better procure underground infrastructure, because it's very tempting to think about underground infrastructure as if you're building a little house. And so, I want a house. You just change the word house and put in the word tunnel. And I want my house to be 2 stories high. Cross out 2 stories high and put in 2 kilometres long. And I want it to have enough room for 5 children. Cross out 5 children, put it in 2 lanes of traffic for trucks and cars. It doesn't work like that. And so you need a different approach. And also, intellectually, you need to understand that cheap isn't necessarily good. So if you're having a competition for a house and you can describe what it is you want for a house, you can have a competition for who's the best price. But when you're drilling a hole through a mountain and you don't know what's in there, actually you don't really know what's inside a mountain until you're in there, because mountains kind of have secrets. And so you don't see the secret until you're actually there. And so you need to be able to engage with the mountain as if for me, intellectually, emotionally, I engage with a mountain as if it's alive. Okay? For me, a mountain isn't dead, it's alive. And so I'm coming to do a deal with the mountain. I want to kind of go through you, and I don't want to upset you. And I'd like to do this in a way that doesn't harm you. And to the mountain, and so I bring the management structures, the resource allocation, the verification, and I do this deal. So that's a very long answer to a very short question, and I could talk for 100 years about this, because for me, it doesn't get much harder than this because we're not in a normal environment. It's not like we're up on the surface and we're wanting to build that house. We are in a different realm where this isn't. And so if you're in another realm, you need to have a different mindset and you need to have a different approach. And just being just bringing your old tools isn't enough. And that's part of the discussion that I'm having since the Silk Yara with the government about how we can be more sophisticated with the way that we build tunnels in through mountains, and especially the Himalayas. I mean, my goodness, they are just so beautiful, and they're alive, and they're young, and they're sometimes in a bad mood. So we need a good approach for the tunneling.
Talked about mountains being alive, and I wanted to talk about this, this particular statement of mine as well once, that in the scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures, we have read over and again, because these mountains are alive and they have been a part of some greatness, somewhere in the scriptures, all across, being it the Veds, the Purans, or the Upanishads. They have talked about mountains often, and in fact, Himalayas have a different significance for us because Himalayas is considered largely as a singular entity, and the king of Himalayas is considered the father of the wife of Lord Shiv or Shiva, Devi Parvati. So, talking about the alive mountains, do you see that we have a lot of ecological imbalance while we are building such infrastructures across the world, not just our country, India, or the Australian friend nation of ours. Do you think that we are actually ignoring the aspect that they also have some sort of presence in the form of energies, or are we actually neglecting the entire fact that we only need to make money and more infrastructure, and we don't give a damn about the environment or ecology? What is your perspective on this concept?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very interesting question, and that's probably another 100 episodes, and that's just for the first part of my answer. So for me, there's just no doubt, and there's never been any doubt, that the mountains are alive. For me, they are alive. And I've never read your scriptures. This is how I engage with mountains. And also, I know that with mountains, they kill us a lot. So for example, just to travel between the two sacred temples that this tunnel is helping to join, I had to travel on the road across the mountains many times, and I could see the wreckage of the cars and buses in the valleys. So, and this is not something peculiar to the Himalayas. It's something that I've seen in many countries. So I don't see mountains as being hostile. But I do see them, and I think again, this is just how I engage with a mountain. For me, I give the mountain respect, and so when I engage with a mountain, or I'm wanting to balance different lives. So in the case of Silk Yara, I know that that tunnel, if it was working, would save at least dozens of lives every year because people wouldn't have to go on the road as pilgrims to go around over the mountain. And I'm just explaining how I think about it. I'm like an alien. Okay, so this is how I think. So when I think or try and engage with the mountain, I'm wanting to do a deal. like reach a new equilibrium and say, look, I know, I know it's not nice that we would like to put a tunnel through you, but if we can do it in a way that you don't feel, if we can do it in a way that, like a surgery, if we can do like a keyhole surgery and we don't hurt you, could you let us do that, and then actually many lives will be saved because we won't have to go over it. So it's like doing a deal, and I think often, because if you've researched my background, I deal a lot with death and I deal a lot with disasters, and there's never any really good reason for it that I can see. Death seems to come when you least expect it. Death kills people who I don't think should be killed, leaves other people that I might be less worried about being killed. Somehow they don't get, like, death is it's a very interesting thing, the way that it works itself, and yet at the same time it's inevitable that we all die. So it's quite an interesting, this death thing for me is very interesting, because I see it, I touch it, I feel it, I see the pain, I see the dead bodies. I mean, that's part of, it's been my life. And so in the case of Silk Yara, what really struck me, and you probably saw it in the interviews right from the beginning, was I was saying, we haven't got a disaster.
Yes, absolutely.
No one. It was when I started talking about that, I think people were quite surprised. And there's a couple of interviews very early where I'm saying, can't you see we're in the middle of an epic? This is an epic. This is like an ancient epic. You've got, and to me it was so clearly an epic because the temple, the small temple at the mouth of the tunnel had been, and I'm not sure of the correct word to use for English as a second language, but I'd call it desecrated, destroyed, disrespected. Any of those words would do. And the local priests were saying, you've upset the mountain by doing this.
Yeah.
And also just, and you can say, I don't know whether it's by accident or not by accident, but I was at the opening Diwali dancing on the day I was at a Diwali festival for the first day of Diwali when this all occurs, because I was at a tunnelling conference and I'd given a paper, and I outside, directly outside, was the Diwali festival. So I was very tuned into Diwali, and that struck me as well. Like, it was Diwali and there's a temple that's been destroyed and we've got a collapse, and yet no one is hurt. It's not that they won't be hurt, it's just that they're not hurt yet. And by some miracle, there's a small pipe going through the mountain and we can send air and food down this pipe. How does that happen? How do you get a mountain collapse hugely and doesn't kill anyone? This never happens. Always when a mountain collapses, it kills everybody. And yet it hasn't killed anybody. And we've got air and water and food. And we can't seem to get any more air and water and food in. Everything we're doing is failing. And so it struck me that if I was to consider the mountain is alive, which I do, and I mean that not, so for my engineering and scientist friends, they sometimes find that very odd, particularly given I'm the president of the peak body for tunnels of the world and I'm pink and I'm a scientist, and yet I'm saying I view these things as like they're alive. It strikes me that the universe is undecided about what to do with these 41 men. And for some odd reason, I'm involved. I don't know how I end up being involved, but for some odd reason, I'm involved. So I'm in this picture too. And it's like the universe has plucked me into this picture. So you've got this bearded, crazy pink person who's been helicoptered in from overseas because I was asked to come. Like I didn't come because I felt like it. I got a phone call and I was just asked, could I come and help? Like that's all. Like it's not, I didn't, I don't do disaster tourism. I didn't look on the news and go, oh, there's a disaster in India. I better come and rush to the disaster. No, I'd received a call and then I was asked to help. And also, tell me to stop if I'm saying too much or whatever, but but
Everything sinking because I'm connected very well with them. As you said, the very moment this happened, I was and the rescue was done. You might have seen a post over my LinkedIn page and over the LinkedIn page of BCA, where the picture of you praying to the local deity was posted. So I'm just connecting everything, recalling everything back from memory because I was stuck on the TV screens, news channels. That whatever is happening, I want to see what is happening. Please continue.
yeah, well, so because my I'll take you back before I'm kneeling at the temple because that's the first thing I did. I didn't go to my hotel. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't go to a meeting. I didn't do anything. I got off the helicopter. I said I want to go to site and I said I want to go to the temple because the new temple had just been reinstalled while I was flying there. I'd seen the news that the little temple had been put back. And while I was going, or because I was in New Zealand when Diwali started, but when I got the call to come, I was in Slovenia. I was over in Europe, so I'd gone from New Zealand and I'd gone to Europe, and I and something that people or some not everybody but some people find really odd. They say to me, well, what were you asked to do? And I said, well, I was asked to help. And they're like, yes, but what? But what were you asked to help with? I'm like, I don't know. They just said, can I come and help? And they was the chief engineer, Rahul Gupta, who's chief engineer of for and the secretary to the Prime Minister's department. And they just like it was just literally like on my phone. We're just having a talk like we're having, and they just said, "Can you come and help?" And of course I said yes. And it wasn't about. And there's some people don't understand this, and I think you understand it. I'm watching you, and I think you get it. But some people don't understand that this isn't about business or commerce this is just about what people do. It's someone needs help, so you help them. And so I just went to help. But while I was on my way coming to help with no instructions about what to do and no instructions about what not to do, so the government completely trusted me just to do whatever I felt like. While I was on my way, I learnt about Kali, goddess Kali. Goddess Kali, I could really relate to. I'd never known anything about Kali, but the more I researched her, the more she made sense of a whole lot of things that I'd seen through my career, because her rage, her rage through love, her randomness, her, the way that she was depicted, certainly in the languages I could read. And maybe I should learn Sanskrit, because I now realise I'm reading probably 2 translations away from the original. So the scholar in me says I should learn how to read Sanskrit, but that's another thing. I felt like I could relate to this Kali, and I just had a really good feeling about Kali. Like I know this. I know Kali, and in fact, Kali has been all around me in my work for all of my career, And so, when I went to that little temple that you saw me praying at, I was having a chat to Kali. I wasn't just on my. I'd figured out that the person I should have a talk to was Kali, and I had very, very simple, really simple thoughts, not complicated, about what I wanted to discuss and what I would like. And it was framed to a mountain that I felt was undecided, because the mountain had not killed anybody. The mountain had not allowed us to get in, because I hadn't got there for a few days. Everything that everyone had done had failed. All the drilling had failed. Everything before I got there had failed. So people were getting a bit depressed, but no one had got killed. So I felt like, so if I was a god, I'd be sitting back going, not sure. I've been annoyed because these people have been drilling a hole through me, and they're being rude and disrespectful, and it's going really badly, and I've been warning them because there'd been lots of collapses. Before this collapse, in that tunnel, in that little section between where you saw me going in the tunnel and where the men were stuck, there had been 21 prior collapses. So plenty of warning. And so in terms of management, 1, okay. 2, maybe. 3, we're pushing our luck. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Come on. If I was a mountain, you'd be getting a bit intolerant if you're giving people warning. Like, my friends, the tunneling is not being done correctly. You should be learning. You should be doing this better. Why are you tempting me? Why aren't you finding a new balance here? And then finally, of course, the collapse happens, but no one's killed. And so that's what the very first thing I do is I go to the temple and I have a chat, and I'm very clear. I know what I want. And it's not simple. I don't go there, let all the people out. No. Has to be something far more godlike. Has to be something far more sophisticated than that. And and anyway, that's that first image. The one thing I regret is I didn't realise I should have taken my shoes off. So that first picture of me kneeling at the temple, later on, I realised I'm meant to take my shoes off even to climb up the rocks. So I felt that was a bit rude of me, but I didn't know. And also my boots were leather, so I thought that was even worse. I thought, what have I done? I've worn leather boots and I've gone before this, the temple. So, yeah, so that was that. Yeah. So that's just the first picture. So that's only day 1 of my arrival. So I'm not sure if you find that interesting, but that's where my head was at when I got there.
Interesting to question that as a fact also, because I have everything posted over there on my LinkedIn profile. That's the major social media, and rather only social media I use personally. I remember how I was personally following everything, and the minute I realized that this man is behind, the rescue, I said, enough, let's find him. Whatever social media platforms I can engage myself into, I made an account and then I started finding you. My team was back there home. I was working for some other college and university, college rather. And I said, let's find where can I find Mr. Dix? And then I simply go out. And, I'll talk about more things, especially about Silkyara, sorry, uh, uh, because spirituality is something that blended well with science in this particular case, I believe. Moving ahead, as you said, the entire demography and the geography of Uttarakhand and the Himalayas is not very old. And I was reading somewhere about this, and it's somewhat a half a billion year old rock, which is still breathing and developing and evolving itself. So the entire the structure that we were building was on a live rock which still
Yep.
adjusting itself, if I'm not
Yep.
wrong. Correct me, Prof, if
100%.
I'm wrong. So that caused the collapse, and as you said, there were 21 prior warnings by the nature itself that something is going wrong every single time. There comes the concept of rat miners in your team. As you said, it was a team effort. I read about rat miners, and what are rat miners actually, and how did they help you in that entire functionality? Because they were all celebrating something. And apart, before you answer this, I would say there was a meme going on because we lost World Cup to you on 19th November, the Cricket World Cup to you. And
Yep.
after this rescue, there was a meme going on across the nation that the only Australian that made us smile was Professor Arnold Dix. I don't know if that reached you or not.
Was me.
Yeah,
I heard about it. I don't think I've seen it. Yeah, but I heard someone about that. So I wasn't getting really much press.
yeah,
So I I was very focused on the rescue, and also I didn't have my phone didn't really work, and there wasn't much Wi-Fi, and the press that you were seeing was coming out of satellite links, and so I didn't really know what was going on. So
no,
when
yeah,
you I was kind of disconnected, and even if I had it, I wouldn't have looked because every every ounce of my energy, everything was focused on how do we get these 41 kids home, and I was using the word kids because I felt that they were other people's children and they're just young. And I a couple of times mentioned I have a daughter similar age, and she also works underground. So I felt that I was getting children, or we're getting our children home. The question of the rat miners, my role wasn't micromanaging any particular team, because actually the team that was successful, the auguring, they were only one of five. So we had the auguring team, which had been trying to get through since the beginning, and they had consistently run into a lot of difficulties because, well, because really auguring over that distance is not common, and because there was a lot of steel and other debris in the rock, so the auger didn't do well with that. So there was them. Then there was the vertical shaft coming in from above, which was big enough to put a rescue capsule in. There was also a smaller shaft from above, which was like an exploratory shaft, and also could let us put air and oxygen and food and things in if the other shaft broke. We had a parallel tunnel boring machine that we were launching, and that was about 2 weeks away, but we were on that. We had a rear rescue coming in from the other side, but we stopped that one because I thought it was too dangerous. And we had another another one that I was working with the army. We were working on another technique as well. So actually, we had multiple things happening at the same time. But the the bit of advice that I was giving was, and I think it's important because I'm, as I say right from the beginning, I'm not saying that I'm I didn't do the rescue. Like I'm just one of a huge team, but and my job seemed to be to be calm and to be, I don't know, just anyway. I'm not even sure how to describe what I did. Remembering I had no description of what to do, but my message was always, if you have a choice between hard and soft, go soft. And if you have a choice between fast and slow, go slow. And if you're feeling tired, have a sleep. And so which I wasn't doing so much myself, because I was sort of everywhere. I was on the mountain, I was under the mountain, I was at the back of the mountain, I was at the side of the mountain, I was in the management meetings. Like, I was kind of everywhere. I kind of maybe a bit like a glue. I kind of could glue. I knew what was happening on the mountain at the same time as I knew what was happening in the mountain, as I knew at the side of the mountain. And so I could help make sure we were all working really well together. And the people you describe as the rat miners, what they do, which is what we wanted done, is they very softly excavate rock by hand and then allow us to push the pipe a little bit further forward, and then excavate by hand and then push the pipe a little bit further forward. So they were part of the softly approach, because despite all the things that are said, the fact is, in the end, that we needed to be softer and more careful so that we didn't trigger a major catastrophic failure. And the way we were coordinating, like the guys on the auger were great and fantastic, but the guys doing the vertical drilling also were fantastic. So you imagine the vertical drilling team, they got within just a few meters of the crest of the tunnel, and we had a big meeting, and we decided that even though they could have easily come down, we think fairly easily come down through the crest of the tunnel into the top, and then we could take people out in a capsule, they agreed to wait because we were worried that maybe we'd trigger an avalanche, or maybe we would trigger a whole lot of water coming in and drown everybody. So actually, and this is amazing, because you imagine the team of people who've been able to successfully drill from the top of the mountain all the way down, and they're right above the tunnel where they want to be. The amount of self-control to stop and wait is amazing. And that was what made these teams so extraordinary, that there we had all these different groups of people who were desperate to rescue these 41 men, and yet we were able to show restraint and grace and calm and coordinate amongst ourselves. And even in the minutes, and I mean minutes before the rescue itself, there was discussions, for example, between myself and the rescue people, where we'd be saying, now look, and just really quiet, really friendly discussion, saying, look guys, if you get in there and it starts to collapse, because there was a risk it would all collapse, run away. Don't try getting back into that tunnel that we've just put through. Run away, and we'll be back. I will come back and get you. It might take us another couple of weeks, but don't lose hope. We're not going to forget you, right? Just don't get hurt, because the promise is clear. We're going to rescue 41 people and no one's going to get hurt. And I'd say, and that means you're not getting hurt. So if there's a problem and the man helps when you're in there, run away. Don't try coming back the way you've come in, because that was a really dangerous location, because above that point the mountain had hollowed out, and it was 40 meters of hollow mountain above, and it was dropping rocks down on us, and so there was a risk that the whole thing would blow, and we would lose the emergency pipe and everything. But what we weren't going to do, and what I always promised, we're not going to hurt anybody, and we're not going to forget anybody. So just go down the other end, try and have good thoughts. We're on our way, right? So that was, and so the rat miners also, they had to trust us too, because if the mountain had collapsed on them, their lives were at great risk. And so they had to know that we weren't like, we'll come and get them. And then the other men that hardly anybody talks about. I mean, firstly, there's so many people doing jobs. Everyone was needed. There wasn't one person that wasn't needed. And people say to me, "Oh, what would you do differently now? If, in retrospect, what would you do differently?" And I say, nothing. Because I don't know what would have happened if we'd have gone a little that way instead of that way. I don't know what tricks the mountain had this far on either direction. I don't know. So I'm not so arrogant and so, arrogant's the best word. I'm happy just to say whatever we did was perfect, that everyone was needed, that there was nothing done that we shouldn't have done, that it's perfect because 41 men got out and no one got hurt. We didn't have one drop of blood, and that never happens. It never. I say to people all the time, tell me, where are all the other rescue one gets hurt, where people have been trapped for 17? They don't exist. Always a few people die. Always. Like this is a miracle. This is not, you should celebrate this. We all should celebrate it. And those rat miners were a part of it. But there were other men who went in with welding equipment and cut piece by piece all the broken pieces of auger and machinery out, day after day after day. That was so dangerous because they're dealing with cutting equipment inside a pipe, breathing the gases and stuff. I mean, this is insane. Like, this is so dangerous. And so there was a lot of discussion about making sure those men were getting enough air, making sure those men were getting enough water. I mean, that is a terrifying job, what they were doing. The men, the people who were cooking food for us. How could we do our job if they weren't cooking the food for us around the clock? How could we, the people who were driving the machines, because even driving the machines in the tunnel, if you make a mistake, you kill people because the machines are big and we're little. We didn't even run anyone over. Like, we should have run at least a few over. You've seen the vision. We had people running everywhere and machines going everywhere, and somehow or other no one even got squashed. So, so the rat miners were essential because they were part of the go soft. Let's make this human. Let's not worry about speed. And I recall in the hours before the rescue, a couple of people talking to me, we thought we should have been through and we weren't. And people would come to me and I'd say, it's okay. The mountain hasn't collapsed. We're making progress. The men are all alive. It's okay. Like, let's be like parents when children are sleeping. Like, shh, don't just this is a blessing still. Everything is fine. It's just still a blessing. So just quietly, let's just continue. So very interesting.
Above all that, it's an emotional portion that brings, justice to this entire epic that, as you said, and as you mentioned, it was something more than just miraculous. And you were talking about the local deity where you went down with your leather boots. Boknath Devta is the name, if I'm not wrong. And, I remember the emergence of a symbol of the deity on the mountain where you were praying. If you also recall, because you were live on the ground and I was watching it all closely, very closely, day in and day out. I can talk to you for hours. As you said, 100 episodes would be lesser for this particular topic because it's pretty close to my heart, and I believe to yours too. How was that feeling? Working with the local DD, and I saw the pictures of the chief minister. With one same cloth, as you said, probably he was also not going to the bathroom and not eating. I saw him like he was a soldier on ground with you and your soldiers. How was it working close to the governance and, of course, with the local DT and the energy across? How was the aura? I just wanted to want you to.
This one of the greatest. Well, there were so many miracles, but one of the miracles is that amongst us there was no tension. There was no big boss. There was no I'm the minister, or I'm reporting to the prime minister, or I'm the never. I never heard anyone say that. Instead, what I heard were a group of people behind closed doors saying, what are we going to do? What information do we have? Do we agree that if we do nothing, they're going to die? Did we learn something today? And of course, every day we'd learn a lot. We'd be like, oh gosh, what have we learnt today? And it'd be another one of those, oh, we've learned a lot today. Okay, well, tomorrow, let's not do that. let's try something a little different. Let's whatever. And so there was it was a really wonderful cooperation. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't emotional, because one of the things that I realised straight away is that, and in fact, because I've worked in many countries, is every culture has different ways of coping with decision making and stress and things like that. And in India, everyone's voice is listened to. Every voice, or at least on the project, every voice is listened to. And the bit that I found really interesting was often at the same time. So that would mean everyone would be talking to everyone at the same, like the whole room would erupt, and there's just conversations like all around me. And in the beginning, I was like this little crazy pink man sitting there going, what on earth is happening here? Because everybody's like, it's all going around. But what I realized is that this is a style of, it's like networking or speed problem solving. And so everyone's opinion was being sought and tested and discussed concurrently. And then after about maybe 30 or 40 minutes, we'd get to some sort of a consensus, even if the consensus was just 2 or 3 options, and then we'd discuss them, and then it would be the same. We'd talk, but then the room would quieten down, and then we'd all agree on what we were going to do. And as a group of professional people, men and women, because there were, I think there was the chief geologist, I think, from the India Coal was there from time to time, and so it wasn't just, it was like lots of people in the room doing this. And then we'd agree that based upon not enough information and knowing that we couldn't make a perfect decision, that this is what we were going to do. And then that collective decision would be communicated down to however it had to be communicated and actioned. And so for me, it really taught me the importance that informed, intelligent decision making doesn't have to look like anything. It just has to be informed, intelligent decision making, and that there's a cultural dimension to that which is valid. And it's, if you're in the Himalayas with the state authorities and the Prime Minister's office and the Uttarkashi people and the army and the Air Force and the pink guy who's come in from wherever I've come in from. Anyway, we're all there, like all of us dudes, that we can make a decision amongst ourselves if our hearts are clear, and our hearts were, because we were going to rescue these men. We didn't know how, but we were going to, and we weren't going to hurt anybody doing it. Just holding that mission, that very pure, I think, very pure mission. It's not any one person saying, I'm going to be proven right or wrong. It's not any one organisation saying, our solution's the best, your solution's the worst. No, it's 41 men home safe, no one hurt by Christmas. And of course we did.
Trust me, I don't want to let you go. More than that, the amount of excitement I've had, in spite of all the issues in bringing you on board from my side, not from your side. You were always there. Yes, I'm in. Every time I text you, I bombard you with the messages of mine. Those lengthy and super cheesy kind of messages, because that's a kind of habit being into literature for some time. Adapted to. You've always been here. I just have to ask one last question before your statement.
Okay.
Whatever has been missed. How do you feel about coming up here? As I said in the very beginning, I apologize on behalf of entire media that we did not celebrate the kind of heroic you've done. And how do you feel about this initiative that we are trying to bring in with the BCA Foundation India? And I just want your statement on behalf of the entire team you led, you worked with, Professor.
So the team I worked with, I just think it's wonderful that you take the time to look behind the rhetoric, because in the end, it was our hearts that won this. Like, there's often, you can't have engineering without a heart. You can't have a humanitarian response without a group of people who are wanting to bring their children home. Like and so for taking the time to just come and have a talk with me, I just thank you for doing that. And if I can just share, also people ask me how I feel. I feel the most contented. I can't even explain it. The word contented doesn't quite explain how I am now. It's changed me. I feel like, in some small way, I discharged my duty. I feel like this was what I was meant to do, and that whatever it was that I brought to the team was what I was always meant to do. And if you look at my LinkedIn posts in the month or so before the rescue, no, actually, look at the posts that are made about me in the month or so before the rescue. You'll discover that I was started to talk in poetry and do presentations in poetry. And my manner changed before the rescue. And I didn't know there was going to be a rescue. And yet my state of mind, by the time the rescue came about, was really the right frame of mind to deal with an extremely stressful event in which 41 lives were in the balance. Somehow or other, in that month or two before, I became a sort of a different person. Like, I actually became very finely tuned in emotionally, which was, and you can see it because if you go to LinkedIn, just type Arnold Dix poetry, and all of a sudden there's references to me doing poetry. The other thing that's really weird is, before I left my home, for no reason at all, because I didn't know there was going to be a rescue, I packed my rescue equipment because I felt like it. And also, I packed little packets of fish, little 100-gram tins of fish, and I packed 2 weeks' worth for no reason. and my wife was like, why are you packing your rescue equipment and everything? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I just felt like it. So uh, this is really odd. Like, so now that I'm sitting on the other side of it and the rescue's completed and everything, I'm just telling you factual stuff. Like, you hear my voice. I'm not I'm just saying what happened, and it's just verifiable. Like, and I feel really tuned in. I feel really just a part of something huge, and I think, and now I feel really contented. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those really, really kind of interesting things. And I'm really hoping I don't have to do another one of these rescues because they're quite tricky. But one per lifetime, just one epic miracle rescue is enough, I think, for one lifetime. So yeah, I feel really proud and honoured to have been part of something great.
Trust me, not I often use this quote that not all heroes wear capes, and you are one of them. Uh, as you said, for no good reasons, but if you go back to the same platform, we are talking about the non-sponsoring platform to this podcast, LinkedIn. That's how we got connected at first. I have this cover letter that comes from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the epic, taken from the Mahabharata. There's a quote written with Lord Krishna or Krishna saying this to his disciple that everything here happens for a reason. Uh, so there's every bit of energy from the universe that might have brought it to the equilibrium that you are going to come to this land, the Dev Bhumi of Uttarkashi, and making it possible with the people, of course, the other gems or the arsenals in your artillery, like the NDRFs, the SDRFs, the ministers, the prime minister's team, or
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the ones, and there's this very, every bit of stone or soil was also involved in saving all those people. And I just I got emotional during that last answer of yours, that how you explained that something that you did not know, but you were still preparing for it, and it filled my heart. Trust me, whenever you are next in India, I'm hosting you. You just have to give me a phone call, and you're eating food at my. I'm getting you home.
Okay. Well, I haven't eaten food with my brother this lifetime, so I better organise myself. But it, I still cry when I am telling people about the rescue. Tears just come out of my eyes. I, I'm celebrating everyone who's there. Like, I, I just feel I was part of something really big, and I feel like we were all needed. I don't know how else to stress it. Like, we all, everything, like you say, every rock, every person, all the expertise, everything. There's not one of us, I don't think, that you could take out of the equation and it would be the same result. It it's it's just the whole thing. Nothing to do, nothing different. There's nothing else we could do better. The yeah, even the fact that I wouldn't leave, like, after the rescue. I went and gave thanks at the top of the mountain and took the rescue team with me. I had to do that. I felt I had to do it, even though the Prime Minister's office was telling me I had to get on a helicopter and go back to wherever. I just ran away, and and I think it made people a bit angry with me because they worried that I'd fallen down a cliff or something. But I felt that having kneeled at the temple before the tunnel and having asked for certain things, it would be very rude and disrespectful for me not to go to the top of the mountain and say thank you, because actually I got exactly what I asked for. And I I'm going to the top of the mountain to say thank you. I'm not about to jump in a helicopter and fly away and go, yeah, well, I'm such a cool dude. I made that happen. I didn't make it happen. I was just part of a big team that made it. We all made it happen. And I went and said thank you. And that one is
Very special.
that's that one. That one is from the top of the mountain. That one is from out the priests at the tunnel, and the other one is from a temple here in Australia, because the temple welcomed me when I came back to Australia, and the priests here gave me one. And so everybody says to me, you have to leave them on. And since I've got back, I've been eating too much food because I'm so happy that I'm not dead. And so I'm getting fat. And as I get fatter and fatter, these are getting tighter and tighter. And so maybe I should stop eating so much food because I'm getting too fat. But yeah, I just thought I should share that with you as well. So this reminds me of the three places: the tunnel, the top of the mountain, and then here in Australia with the Hindu community here.
Thank you very much for considering me competent enough to welcome you, and you've just given ample of your time, which I still feel is lesser because I want to keep going on. And as you said, you will not be short of these things. Just send me across your address. You'll keep receiving them.
Okay. Well, I think they have to be like this. They have to always have a story. I don't want to collect them like souvenirs. They should be part of my journey.
1.4 billion people love this pink man, as you said. And one of them is here, as you said, your younger brother, who not just praises you, but also prays for you. Thank you very much for being here on board with us. On behalf of my entire team, I thank you and really extend my gratitude on behalf of entire community of Indians who love Australians as on the grounds of cricket as well as in person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. We call it a close. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay.